Hi gang, Ed here, and I was thinking more through the way we look at our online business and maybe some different reframes. We talked about the difference between conducting tests and experiments, and that conducting a bunch of experiments that are quick and that are fast and that are cheap to do is a lot better frame than thinking that either this has to work or not. It's a life and death situation. The other thing with experiments, of course, is that the result is out of your control. You don't expect an experiment to be a success or a failure. It's just the result is the result. But what you do know is that you've got something that is more certain. You have more certainty after you've conducted the experiment than before you've conducted the experiment. I read a great book a couple of years ago. I wish I could remember who recommended it to me, but it was fantastic. It was called Go for No. And it's a sales book, and it was a book about turning on its head. I love the concept of reframing. Rather than thinking about yeses, because everything is about making the sale in sales, right? But this book made a great argument that you should actually go for no's. In other words, you should rack up as many no's as possible, because if you're good, what they'd know is that if you get all those no's, you're going to get the yeses, right? Whereas most people focus on, I need to get this sale, I need to get this yes. And as a consequence, just like with our online business, they would prefer to avoid doing it. That fear of failure, that fear of loss is really strong in us. And school's got a lot to answer for, because, everything it's about being right. And you'd prefer rather not to try something than be wrong, because that fear of failure, and your brain is trying to protect you against that. It doesn't want you to feel bad, so it doesn't want you to have that feeling of failure. And I made a comment in a recent video, and I said, the person who makes the most experiments in a market wins, and that's true. And in some ways, this going for no is a fantastic analogy to that too, because when you think about it, the more no's you get, the more failures in an experiment, the more likely you are to get to something that works and that is effective. And if you look at the underlying fundamental of this, I think people think of success and failure as, well, there's success over here and there's failure over here, and you're in the middle, and you need to try and move to success and away from failure. But as Go for No, the book points out, and I think this is brilliant, the reality is completely different. Think about anything you've ever done of any worth in your life. The path is you have to go through failure to success, right? There's no other way. You must fail before you succeed. It just doesn't work any other way. It's not sustainable any other way. Yeah, sure, somebody might win the lottery or walk past one of those slot machines and drop in a coin and hit the jackpot once, but that's not sustainable. That's not reality. That's Cinderella stuff. Everything that you do, everything that's worthwhile, has this period of failure before it becomes a success. And it doesn't matter whether you're a sports person, doesn't matter whether you're an Olympian, doesn't matter whether you're an online business, doesn't matter whether you're a salesperson. And I think, if you start applying this philosophy of going for no with your online business, I think you'll actually start to find yourself doing much better, because then it's all about conducting these experiments to get more certainty in a marketplace. Because as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is trying something different, trying to make something for themselves, by definition, you're dealing with incredible uncertainty, and you're not going to be right first time. And I think this is a very freeing philosophy, because then the stress is not about this being a success, this having to work. It's about doing something that's completely in your control, conducting that experiment, figuring out that, oh, look, there's an assumption, there's something I'm not certain about. Let's design a little experiment that's cheap, fast, and quick, that we can test whether there's more certainty or less certainty about something. But the great thing about an experiment, the one result that you can be absolutely certain of, I'm using certain a lot today, aren't I, is, of course, that you will be more certain about the marketplace after you've conducted an experiment and before it, because you will have got valuable information, you will have got valuable data. And if you start applying this thinking across your business, I tell you what, you're going to really start making some moves. So think about it. Think about going for no. Think about just your job as an experiment conductor. The more experiments you conduct, the more likely, the closer, by definition, it's science, people, you'll get closer to your successful experiment by going through a lot of experiments that aren't, inverted commas, successful. Have a think about it. I think it's pretty cool. By the way, and boy, is this taking off at the moment. If you're not watching this video, or you might be listening on SoundCloud if you're listening to this, and thank you for listening if you're on SoundCloud, make sure you check out the blog where this video is hosted, its home, because we have a great comments section and it's fascinating to hear people's experiences in this. And I'd love to hear your experiences about going for no. Have you ever tried this philosophy? Have you ever found that it's worked for you? I'd love to hear from you about that. And of course, you can do that by going to my blog at eddale.co, because that's where all the comments are, that's where all the action is. It would be fantastic to see you over there and to have you participate. And I make sure I read everyone and I reply. Love to do that. It's fantastic. Also, if you found this useful, really appreciate you liking and sharing in particular. Would be really fantastic to let people know, as we go and prepare towards the next challenge. The more people that hear about this stuff and start thinking about business the right way, it's going to be great for everybody. So with that, have a great time, place, weekend, week, whenever you're watching this, and I'll speak again soon.